I'm more excited for DC than Marvel as a collective. I'm excited for certain Marvel projects, but I'm excited for DC to kick off again and to have a cohesive story moving forward into something that could be really great. Like, I think we will get a Justice League movie one day, and it's going to be really amazing. For Marvel, I'm excited for Born Again and Secret Wars, things like that. Just a few here and there. I'm not excited for where Marvel is heading, at least right now, with what they have announced. Turning around to DC, I am excited for that. And I'm excited for the individual movies as well. And they're coming really soon. This is like, what is it, 9 months until July? It's like making a baby.
Ayo.
That's staying in the episode.
Hello there.
Don't have a good day. Have a great day.
Talk to me, Goose.
I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence.
Why so serious?
World! I could do this all day.
Are you watching closely?
I don't know how passionately you listen to Blurry Creatures. Like, is it an every episode type of deal?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. So I don't know how recently it was, but I listened to Rescued by a UFO with Gary Stewart. And that one was kind of like, I wouldn't say eye-opening, but it was pretty eye-opening. And I know we're going to do an Interstellar revisited episode, or probably multiple revisited episodes, but I think Interstellar is a good one, especially to have you on sometime now that you're Nolan, bro. And honestly, the way that Gary described his experience of time, like standing still, because of his UFO experience, and others have said this too, and me connecting it with Interstellar really makes me think that the point of spiritual beings is that they probably have some sort of visibility status is one thing, but another thing is probably time. They're not bound by time. And so being able to sometimes, like, people are kind of drawn into that. And that's the supernatural experiences. It's even explains some things in the Bible, like Moses and the time standing still, even though that was more physical, like the earth stopped rotating around the sun, or stops rotating and revolving. But it was still, God controlling time. And just the other ways, the other implication, like, in my mind, the thought that I had was that eternity makes so much more sense when you realize that it's just that we as humans are bound by time. We can't do anything about it. And then God is outside of time. Spiritual beings are outside of time. And that's why eternity is going to feel so different and so unique. And that's what we're looking for. It just makes so much sense. So I like that episode. And we'll probably bring it up when we talk about Interstellar again.
Go check out Blurry Creatures, everyone.
Blurry Creatures, is it Luke and Nate?
Is that their names? I can never remember.
You don't even know. So. Luke and Nate, if you're listening to this, we would love to talk to you. One small creator to another.
They're a bit more significant than us.
Just a little bit. Or maybe
a lot,
maybe
probably.
Very much so. Or maybe people don't realize how big the One Night Film podcast actually is.
Yeah, we're huge. Let me check how many followers there are.
On Spotify, it's like 37,000.
Blurry Creatures, they have 96,000.
Oh, on Spotify?
On Instagram.
On Instagram, 96. Okay. It was YouTube that I saw they had 37,000 subscribers, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, I've been down that rabbit hole. It's
nice.
A lot of fun. I even found, I think I told you I found the Exorcist Files, which is...
Oh, yeah. Okay, I got to check that one out.
Someone who makes audio dramas out of actual stories from priests and exorcists, and it kind of explained the rules of the spiritual world, and I think that's also very interesting. Not for the lighthearted, but it's still cool.
Did you check out any Ninjas Are Butterflies yet?
I did not. I actually don't think you told me the actual name, so I never did.
Oh, what?
Oh, you said... I know you told me about it. Oh, I know those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen their reels.
Their podcast is so good.
Yeah.
I got a sticker on the back of my phone.
I just know them as the Beard Youth Pastors from Instagram.
Oh. Last November, I started a meme page for their podcast, actually, on Instagram. And eventually they decided they wanted to send me a gift. So I got 2 shirts from them and a bunch of stickers.
Whoa.
Yeah.
They're good memes then.
So that was cool. It's mostly just out of context quotes, but
Do we get to know which one it is?
what page it is?
Yeah.
My page?
Yeah.
If you look up out of context ninjas are butterflies quotes, you'll find it.
That's pretty generic. oh, Uknabik. Oh, yeah. Hey, if anyone wants to make a fan page of us,
Yeah, make a meme page of us, someone.
there would be so many quotes.
Oh,
Not
hey, look, I got a new
necessarily as-
follower, guys.
Being held in Dallas's arms as an atom bomb drops. Probably the best way to go. Cool. Yeah, I remember I ran a Northwestern meme account.
Wait, which one did you run?
Oh,
Can you reveal this?
it's long gone. I don't. Maybe I even got it deleted. UNW News.
Okay, I don't even remember that one.
Oh, you can still find it. I just found it. It's pretty lame. As in, you could tell that it's that all the pictures were taken on $100 phone. That wasn't that great, and the jokes were not that great either. What did I have? 28 posts. Oh, there's a few. Yeah, the Ephesus Eagle does way better. I mean,
Yeah,
I think when I
was
saw the
pretty
Ephesus Eagle start, I found the login just to say this is what I always wanted to be. Good job, guys. Because they, me, the peak of comedy, really wanted to make everyone laugh, and yeah, I didn't like that.
I don't know if
Or
you
I
were like a part of it, but it seemed like there was like this hidden society of like the mods of the different UNW meme pages.
I do remember that.
Were you in that group chat?
No, I actually was. I was in the group chat.
You were? Okay.
I forgot if it went anywhere or did anything. It might have just been a place to collab, but yes, I was in there.
Okay.
And I felt so included. I love this one. To whom it may concern, everyone thinks you're really cool and funny for painting over the 516 rock. Well, time to get into the document. Oh yeah, we were going to start the off-topic topic intro to the episode. So there we go. We got our
There's our off-topic topics.
off-topic topic. And some people will only be able to understand some of the stuff if they went to Northwestern, which is actually probably a large percentage of our listeners because our fan base is not that big. But you can change that by sharing this with your friends. Yeah. Okay. So, DC. So, Batman. DC. I suppose I should explain what our idea for this episode is and following episodes. We had the idea, and I pitched it to Zach. He liked it. Is to do like a State of the Union or last year of, previous franchise years to look back for posterity, to know what we were thinking, because obviously things haven't happened yet. Imagine that. And I think we're only in coming up on 2-year anniversary of the podcast. And we'll start this to look back each year and figure out where we're at. It'll probably be a summer episode because the end of the year gets clogged up with a lot of Christmas stuff and New Year's stuff. No, I actually love those episodes. They're actually some of my favorite. I'm looking forward to Christmas, looking forward to our year in review and 2025 predictions. Love those episodes, but I don't want to stuff the State of the Union or State of the Franchise. We'll call it that as a working title. State of the Franchise. Nice. That was a good one. That was like a 9 out of 10.
Oh, thank you.
State of the Franchise will be summer episodes just to kind of space some stuff out. And it'll hopefully be consistent as long as the podcast is going. There's a dog outside.
Can I pet that dog?
Can I pet that dog?
Can I pet that dog?
And so we're going to start with the DCU. Probably do Star Wars with Isaac, and we'll come back to the MCU. We talked plenty about the MCU. But especially 2024 is interesting, as I've said, because there has been not a lot of things. It's been a year of transition. DC didn't have anything coming out except, well, Aquaman 2 came out this year, didn't it?
No, that was like December.
Oh, that's
last
right.
year.
It was a December one. Yeah, 2023. Okay, so legitimately, nothing from DC has come out, which is understandable. They scrapped everything at the end of, they were just going to keep releasing the few that they had in the pipeline. And a lot of news has been coming out in the last 9 months, which is October now already. Goodness gracious.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of news has been coming down the pipeline of what the DCU will look like under James Gunn. And we can talk about that. We can talk about where the DC EU was, things like the Snyderverse if we have time. But recently we had...
And the Elseworlds projects too.
You're going to have to be the pro on that because I honestly don't know. Is that the...
I mean, there's 2 of them out right now, I think. Because there's Penguin and Joker 2.
Okay. You had to explain
projects.
who or what the Elseworld projects was because
Yeah.
I wasn't familiar with it by that term.
DC projects that aren't part of the main canon that
Gotcha.
Gunn is creating. So
Yeah. And I think the Batman is going to be very telling with how DC moves forward because even yesterday I saw a headline, and headlines are just Instagram first pictured on the rotating what are they called? Carousel. They're called carousel, like carousel pictures on Instagram.
dude, I can hear geese fly by your window.
All right, well, they're flying away, so
Oh, okay.
I know my mic is very sensitive and I need to fix that. I saw again, the equivalent of a headline for Gen Z is the first picture in an Instagram carousel saying that Warner Bros. Wants Robert Pattinson's Batman to be the DCEU Batman. And I bet James Gunn does not like that. Not that he doesn't like the Batman. I'm sure he and Matt Reeves get along. I think Matt Reeves is even helping on Dynamic Duo, which was also announced recently. But the Warner Bros. Forcing that is egotistical and maniacal and very annoying that they don't just let the directors do what they want. So I don't think that's the right call, even though our beloved High Top Film says it is. Or did he say the opposite? I forgot. I think he had a video.
Oh, I don't know if I ever saw that one.
High Top was arguing for consistency and one story, which makes sense for the cinematic universe perspective, and yet I think that it's okay, and that's partially off of the Troy Oboyo, again, I don't know his real name, the Troy Oboyo video where he wants like a couple different projects in the works, not necessarily connected. And I've even advocated for unconnected projects just so that it doesn't have to make sense. Just make a Bane movie and have him be, well, then it kind of turns into an anti-hero story, which is fine, but then you kind of turn into Sony. So maybe you just have a Batman as the antagonist through all of them, but it's not a Batman. Like, it's not about Batman. I don't know. But
I just think you need clear distinction of like what's main universe and what's an Elseworld project. I think that's kind of just what they really need to do. I mean, even putting like DCU at the top of the posters and everything for the DCU movies, just so people don't get confused. Because if you're gonna like intentionally be doing all these Elseworlds projects, there's bound to be confusion if you don't label things correctly. So,
well, and I don't know exactly how many people, like if you were to poll all the people who watch New Legacy, or what is it called?
Superman.
Just Superman.
Yeah.
If you polled all those people, how many of them are like us who care about the storyline and the consistency in the cinematic universe. Those who just want to see a movie are those people. And then those people who like DC but don't know anything about the greater DCU, you know? And so, yeah, it could be confusing for those people to see it and be like, well, why isn't Pattinson showing up? Who's this guy? Or where is he? Or whatever. So, and we are getting a Batman movie, correct? Like, that's been announced. It was a Batman and Robin.
Yeah, Batman, Brave and the Bold. Not to be confused with a cartoon.
Superman Legacy, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, Brave and the Bold, Swamp Thing and the Authority, Creature Commandos, which was already, trailer was announced, Paradise Lost. We'll see what happens regarding Ezra Miller's future as the Flash. You know, the greatest superhero movie of all time that he apparently said, you know? Yeah. This could be helpful. And maybe this is just Total Film or Games Radar. I don't know who's in charge of this. Calling it DCU Chapter 1. I don't know if that's Gunn's term or...
Yeah, that's Gunn's term. That's how,
okay.
In his video explaining all of that, he called it Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters.
Yeah. Booster Gold as well. Peacemaker Season 2. Waller Lanterns. Yeah, and there's been other announcements along those lines, like Lanterns. Multiple Lantern actors have been cast. Some people wondering why they're so old, and I'm worried that it's going to go down the Batfleck route of just plopping us into closer to the end of their story. I don't know. Something that somebody did say in one of their video essays is that Gunn made the Guardians of the Galaxy, who were not the original Guardians of the Galaxy, and that works. It worked really well. It's some of the most beloved movies of the MCU, and even if some of these characters don't seem like A-listers or whatever, he will make them work. And I think because we haven't seen a team-up movie even announced or rumored or whatever is really great, because the way the DCEU started was that Man of Steel was made. I don't think it was meant to be the kickoff to the DCEU. It was a pretty decent solo movie.
Yeah.
And then he just was thrown into a team-up movie in Batman v Superman plus Wonder Woman. And they just were playing catch-up. That's all it was. And so Gunn taking his time, knowing that there is time, knowing that it's not just the peak of superhero, like the desire for superheroes. We kind of talked about this in the MCU shows episode, where there was hype for Agatha and WandaVision. And then after a while, then they greenlit a show and they made a show, and now they're releasing in 2024 and nobody cares anymore. And so that's what I feel happened after Endgame, is that they greenlit a lot of shows. Like DC were excited to get shows out, and then like people didn't want them anymore. And we've gotten to a point of superhero fatigue because they were like, let's make all this stuff because people loved Endgame. It's the second highest grossing movie of all time. And so let's just make everything. And then it bored people, wore them out, and Gunn is taking it easy. He knows, he sees that, and he's going to release Superman Legacy when the CGI is finished. That's a big thing, to just be able to let the movie look as best as possible. And it's going to release July 11th is what Games Radar says, which is okay that he's set a time. Like, you have to set a time at some point, but he's not. I think the criticism he got was knowing the time between wrapping production and releasing the movie. And usually it's a lot shorter than a year. And people are like, well, release it sooner because that's what everyone else does. And he's like, no. Then they end up with bad CGI in their movie because they're pushing the artists. It's not that the artists are incapable. It's not that the Flash VFX people were not good at their job. It's that they were crunched for time, even though they had 10 years to work on the movie. And so I think with only one movie truly in production, unless some are in pre-production, I'm sure they are in pre-production, he's just focusing on Superman. Drip feed it to us. We don't need it all now, and it's okay.
To take a step back, just kind of talking about Pattinson maybe being integrated into the DCU. I think that's bad, kind of for both of them, for Matt Reeves' Batman and the DCU. Because, in all honesty, I don't think we're going to get movies in the DCU that are as good as the Batman.
Ooh.
That might
Okay.
be a, I don't know if you call that a hot take or not, but I think just being part of a cinematic universe, even if it's run well, I think there's still enough juggling that, any project isn't really the director's project, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, especially when you have to connect it to another thing.
Yeah.
It was kind of like what happened with Multiverse of Madness. Raimi wanted to make a movie, probably R-rated, and way different than what was released. And Feige, even though, that was Phase 4, so it's not like we hold Feige in high regards very much anymore, but he still had him change it because it needed to fit. And yet some people also say that Raimi didn't actually watch WandaVision because it didn't really fit super well, even though, yes, she was in exile and whatever. But yeah, it makes sense.
And also with what's happening with the new Spider-Man movie, with it having to be a multiverse film instead of what was originally meant to be, just because of when it's releasing. I think that's kind of same thing would happen with the Batman if it were part of the DCU. He couldn't always continue the story as he wanted to because of everything else that's happening in the universe. So I think it would really hold the Batman movies back from what they could be if they were integrated into the DCU. And I mean, with Gunn already having plans to have an older Batman in the DCU with Damian Wayne as Robin, who is a Robin way farther down the line, that I just don't think that would work for DCU as well, to bring Robert Pattinson in and try to rush him to Damian, I guess.
I mean, that makes sense. Yeah, even though it would be cool to connect them all, it's just going to harm them more in the end. Do you think we're just going to have to live with Brave and the Bold and Batman Part 2 and the Penguin and, being off in their own universe, and it's basically, is it even, it's not even comparable to like the Netflix shows from Marvel or the Disney TV or anything like that. It's not even like, it's implied that those are in the same universe, and they technically are in some ways, but that's not the case. And I don't think Gunn is ever going to go the multiverse route. That's not really DC's story. It's really a Marvel thing. Plus, it's just, he knows it's ruined.
Well,
he knows it. Well, what?
I think, DC did their whole Crisis on Infinite Earths and all that before Marvel did their Spider-Verse. And I know there was probably a Marvel storyline, a Marvel multiverse storyline before Spider-Verse, probably. But I think DC did the multiverse before Marvel did in the comics.
Yes, but my argument is that Marvel leans into it more. And maybe that's just me being a movie nerd, and maybe that's not how it happens in the comics. But it's because Marvel often just gets bigger and bigger and bigger with things like Galactus and the Eternals, and there's charts of the hierarchy of the universe of the Marvel of Marvel. And maybe I'm wrong, but that just doesn't seem like DC. Maybe there is a hierarchy. I'm sure there is, but I don't think that they ever get to that cosmic level as often as Marvel does.
Are you talking in the comics or?
That yes, just because I'm not. Obviously in the movies, but I'm only a movie guy. People are going to get mad at me for not knowing the comics.
I mean, there's all those cosmic beings in DC too.
Yeah,
I think Thanos may have even been a ripoff of one of DC's big bads. Darkseid. I don't know. I don't know if Thanos or Darkseid were created first, but
Yeah, I suppose Darkseid is pretty close to that. Now I'm down the hierarchy rabbit hole.
and I mean the Anti-Monitor was the villain threatening to destroy the multiverse in DC Comics. So
Yeah.
they have some of those bigger hierarchy villains.
Yeah. This is really interesting now that I'm looking at it. For Marvel, it's mortals and then celestial genetic manipulation, which is the Eternals and Deviants, Skrulls. And there's gods, which are actual gods, like Kree gods and the ones that they actually worship. Elder gods, extra dimensionals, which is interesting. I'd be interested to read this comic line. The extra dimensional being from heaven is God, or El, which is literally probably the Christian God. Probably not described very well. I'm trying to recognize others from this list. There's cosmic entities, Uatu. Those are the Watchers, and then above that is the Proemial gods. Again, don't recognize them. Then there's like the one before all, Nemesis. The one above all is the top one, which is the all god, Yahweh. Again, I don't know if that's. I can understand respecting like the Christian God and saying that he's the one above all, but yet if it's just another character in a Marvel comic, it's still not worth it. Yeah, I just know that the hierarchy is one. You always got to have a bigger villain, and often that ends up being the next in the food chain of supernatural beings. Even though you might have a hierarchy like that. I keep saying hierarchy, and I think of The Rock.
Yeah, I was trying to find a hierarchy for the DC, and all I got was stuff about The Rock. So
You can't look that up.
the hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change. Did it, Dwayne? Did it?
What was the somebody said it's been 2 years since Dwayne dropped this on us. I'm gonna find it because I want to say it properly. It's a tweet that he did about the. Oh yeah, it was.
Oh, the Queen of England one.
Sorry to hear about the Queen of England passing. She was a great woman. Too bad she didn't live long enough to see Black Adam in theaters October 21st.
Is that an actual tweet from him?
I don't know. It just says, "Rest in peace to Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth II, a great woman who sat on the throne as long as anyone in British history. Sad she will never get to see Black Adam in theaters October 21st." I could legitimately look it up. September.
Oh, it was a fake tweet.
Oh!
Yeah. Which is probably a good thing.
But it's totally a thing The Rock would have done.
Yeah.
He was all about that movie. All right. Well, the hierarchy of the DCU is changing.
But I guess... going back to what you were saying about multiverse, even though both universes in the comics use it quite a bit, I still think James Gunn knows that it's kind of been overdone a lot, so I think he's not gonna do it anytime soon. I think he knows how to tell good stories without a multiverse, and I think he's gonna really be able to craft a well-crafted universe with just the characters and their stories.
Yeah, now that I'm comprehending like the extent of the multiverse in DC, obviously a lot of the Flashes and
There's a lot of
there's lots of Flash variants. There's the Flash, different Flashes, different universes, and phasing through that. But I still will argue that Marvel leans into it a lot more.
in the movies,
or at least the MCU does. And like when you think about the concept of the multiverse, at least it seemed like they want us to think that Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is an alternate universe from Tom Holland Spider-Man, which is an alternate universe from Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, simply because they were rebooted in our world. Like that's the in-universe explanation for the in-world decisions, right? Just because it's a different format or a different director or a different story just means it's a different multiverse. And I think DC sometimes, or again, it's weird because I don't feel like the Arrowverse was an accurate telling of what DC is like. In that, yes, they brought in Brandon Routh, who was already the Atom, and made him Superman again because he was, in a different universe. Yeah. But I don't think that's the core of what DC is, and that's why I think Gunn is going to be more grounded and just tell the story of the character and not make it big. With Marvel, when they were writing the comics and writing those bigger and bigger superheroes and supernatural things to fight and to deal with, it's because they were stuck in a loop of like, it's just, you can't just go back to like the Spider-Man 4 problem. You can't just go back down to regular neighborhood Spider-Man because you have to be bigger. Yeah. And that's not how it's not going to work. And it's not going to connect as well. Let's rewind the clock a bit to Superman.
It's rewind time.
It's rewind time. I remember do you remember when this picture was released of him of Corn Sweat putting on his suit?
May 6th.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, he likes to leak stuff like that just to get people excited. It's not even a leak. There's been some leaks of actual, people from their apartment taking pictures of filming, but people did not like this suit.
And here's why I think
I want to get you on this rant. I know where you're going with this, and I want to get you there.
I don't think I'm going where you think I'm going.
Okay, but eventually I want you to talk about the ever Snyders, the people who only think that Snyder did a good job.
Oh,
and anyone else who tries it. Yeah.
I'll get there, but I want to talk about how I think this picture happened.
Okay.
I think, the Spider-Man Homecoming poster where he's just, like lying in front of like the Washington Monument.
Yeah.
You know how that was just because Tom Holland was lying like that and they took a picture of him?
Yeah.
I think that's what happened here. I think James Gunn saw David suiting up and he's like, yo, that looks cool. So he took a picture and that's what became the first look. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't really show off the suit very well. It's, with him hunching over and everything, it ends up, you don't see much of the suit at all. Mm-hmm. I mean, you see the boots and you can kind of see the logo, but it doesn't do as good of job as showing off the suit as other first looks have done.
Yeah, you're right. I think first off, it's not touched up. If anything, well, maybe that background was like a screen, kind of like a, the surround. I forget what it's called every time. The non-green
the volume
screen.
Thing.
Volume. Or? Yep, the volume. And that would make the most sense for compositing and such. It isn't a great picture in the sense that it doesn't give us a good first look. Like now we know what the suit looks like. And he's done the Gunn thing where he's just drawn random lines on it, more or less, to make it look technical.
I mean, that's just that's like an MCU thing. So
yeah, it's probably a carryover from that. But that's basically what the Guardians have had for their movies. But it's not touched up with CGI. It's not photoshopped like a photo shoot, where they'll have their character posters and such. And so, yeah, I do think that it's a cool composition of a picture, but not a good picture because of he should have given us something different for a first look. That being said, it is a suit, and people just hated the suit for being different.
Yeah, I mean, I think to add one more thing before I talk about Snyder fans, I think one of the reasons it was baggy is just, I think they sometimes do suits that are a little baggy like that for movability. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you're in a skin sight suit, you can't really skin sight. I said toot was the thing I was laughing at.
Skin sight.
A skin tight. That's not what I meant to say.
You got it.
A skin tight suit. That's what I meant to say. You can't move in that very well, especially when you're supposed to be doing like Superman stuff. And, that's something that can get touched up afterwards in CGI. But I think this was just kind of a raw photo taken on set with stuff added in the background, more or less. But
Yeah, you're right. With a lot of things, at least with a camera, if you look at like behind the scenes of Supergirl in The Flash, is that yes, they had her on wires. Yes, she had a suit on. And then as they swipe away to reveal the VFX, they're just taking her head and putting everything else on as CGI. It makes it better for the sake of looking good. But again, I would also argue, going back to as far back as The Amazing Spider-Man, the ripples in the suit make it better and make it more real. Like it's not supposed to be the skin tight. I would say Cavill's suit, like his suit was very glued onto him and very tight. Not only do you think, how do you get out of that, but with the Amazing Spider-Man suit, when in Amazing Spider-Man 2, when he's flying down, that's one of the best shots in the movie, where you can see his fabric rippling in the breeze as he's falling, and that just makes it so real. And that's why I think the Amazing Spider-Man movies are pretty good visually, but I'm not talking about that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they should leave it like this, but I also don't think it's the best representation of it.
Speaking of Cavill. Yes, that's always
Cavill.
the name. Yes, that's always when I have, because I pronounced it Cavill for so long before knowing it was pronounced Cavill.
Before William bluntly corrected you that one episode.
Oh yeah, thank you, William. Anyway, I think that's kind of why he is one of the main reasons. I mean, not him directly. He's indirectly one of the reasons why that suit and all of that got so much hate, is because it's not Snyder and it's not Henry Cavill. So a lot of people automatically just hate it because they're Snyder fans for ride or die. I don't think I've ever said this in an episode, but I described Snyder fans to Seth once, says, oh, he remembers this, as the depressed male version of Swifties. Because they are overly obsessed. Did you remember that?
Barely. I don't remember your exact wordings, but it's so funny. It's so accurate, too.
Overly obsessed with him, no matter what the quality of what he releases is.
Yeah.
This is calling back to what I said in the DCU episode. It was good that Snyder had a plan, because after he was out, DC didn't have a plan with barely any actual plan. So it was good Snyder had a plan, but besides that, he wasn't good for DC.
Yeah.
And I think lots of DC fans need to realize that.
Yeah. That's going to be a clip, by the way. We're going to go viral with that one.
Okay. Oh, no.
I already know it.
Don't get me attacked by Snyder fans. Again. No.
It's okay. You're probably bigger than them, honestly. I lost my train of thought. I don't remember. It was probably High Top, honestly. I'm just going to attribute that to him. There was a video I watched that was definitely something along the lines of how Man of Steel ruined Superman, because he became gritty, and it's not what Superman is. Superman is hopeful. Superman is not just an invincible person that can be changed. Again, Snyder wanted Batman to be sleeping around and drinking to deal with his depression, and like, no, that's not Bruce. Nope. He uses Batman as his outlet. So yeah, I agree with you that Snyder was not good for superheroes. I was very confused when I went to the Wikipedia article for Superman in film, and I was looking at the lead character in all of the Superman movies. So you had Kirk Allen, early years. Then you had George Reeves for one movie. You had Christopher Reeve for 4 movies. You had Brandon Routh for 1. And then after Brandon Routh was Christopher Reeve again.
Oh, for Flash.
No.
What?
It was Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut.
Oh,
and
it
in
was
2006.
Okay.
In 2006, there was a re-release, probably for the 25th anniversary. And I was like, it was just confusing the way they listed it, but it was funny that I was like, okay. Speaking of Christopher Reeve, I'm slightly interested in going and seeing the movie isn't it called Superman?
Super Slash Man, yeah.
Super Slash Man. Yeah. I didn't know the story of him, of Christopher Reeve dying, or, whatever his story
Yeah,
is.
he got in an accident at one point, then he was in a wheelchair and all that for a long time.
He was still a nice guy, and I think that documentary will do good, do justice for him. What else? What do we think about casting stuff?
I was gonna say, let's talk about the rest of the cast for Superman, and do we think it's overloaded?
Do we think the Superman legacy cast is overloaded? I do feel that.
Mm-hmm.
Part of me is like, if you took the cast, the paragraph that says, Cornswell will play Kal-El and Rachel Brosnahan will play Lois Lane and Nathan Fillion will play Guy Gardner and Eddie Gathegi is Mr. Terrific and blah, 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 blah. What if you swapped all of those and Chris Pratt will play Star-Lord and Zoe Saldana will play Gamora and Vin Diesel will play Groot? Like, it's the same thing. And not even just the Guardians. Like, then you have the villains and you have all of those characters. And if that was the paragraph that we were given for Guardians, look what we got from it. And this is a paragraph we have describing the casting for Superman Legacy. So because of his past, because he's proved himself with Marvel, I think it's going to be okay. And again, it doesn't need to be okay. My life does not ride or die on if Superman Legacy is good or not. You got to remember that. But also, no, I'm not worried, even though my instinct is to be worried. Make sense?
Yeah, I think that, based on what I've seen from James Gunn, he really excels with ensemble casts, like Guardians of the Galaxy, all three of those movies, the Suicide Squad, he really does well balancing a lot of characters. And I think it'll be easy for him to still keep a focus on Superman while still having all these other heroes. I think what I've heard about kind of this first chapter of the DCU is that it's about Superman entering into a world of heroes already and kind of bringing a new hope. That's a Star Wars reference that I didn't mean to do, but and kind of just helping all these other heroes, kind of being a guide and an example for all these other heroes that already exist in the universe. And I think I guess this is kind of going on to a new tangent now, but one of the major critiques of the other heroes in Superman's movie is their costumes, how they're just kind of all jackets and stuff. But that's because they're meant to all look the same, because on all their chests you see the same logo. On Mr. Terrific, Hawkgirl, Green Lantern. And that's because they're kind of being sponsored by, I think, who's going to end up being one of the villains in the movie, Maxwell Lord, played by Sean Gunn.
Freaking Sean, finding his way into all his brother's movies.
Yeah. And it's like, he's going to have two roles in the DCU already, because he's going to be in Creature Commandos as well.
Oh my gosh. Didn't Gunn say something about not making it a family business, and people were like, Sean is in everything you do.
What else was I going with that? So and also, like, just based off set photos, again, you can't really judge things like costumes too much, because you don't know what's going to happen in CGI afterwards.
Yeah.
But just overall with the castings, I really think I like all of them, to be honest. I think especially with Superman, Clark Kent, Lois Lane, and Jimmy Olsen. Gunn nailed all three of those.
What's his name? Skylar Gisonato? Dude, he nails the Jimmy Olsen character to a T. Like, I think his photo, when he released his photo, he was doing the Jimmy smile, and he's like Not in a
Yeah,
creepy way like I just did, but
when James Gunn
that
just
was the
posted that
wave.
picture of him waving, I was just like, that's Jimmy Olsen right there.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that guy was in the Amazing Spider-Man movies.
Really?
As
what?
He was one of Gwen Stacy's brothers.
Oh.
So he had a couple scenes in the first one, and then he was only at the funeral in the second one. But also like Rachel Brosnahan.
Brosnahan? Yeah.
She also looks just like you'd think Lois Lane would.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
all three of those, they're awesome. Nathan Fillion fits Guy Gardner so well, so I'm excited to see that. Eddie Gathegi, I think that's how you pronounce his name.
Sure.
Mr. Terrific, I'm excited for him. He looks good. Isabel Merced as Hawkgirl. Dude, she's one of those actresses who's just been everywhere recently.
What's her name?
That's been crazy. Isabel Merced. Because it's like she was in Madam Web. She was in Alien Romulus.
Oh,
she's in a lot of stuff recently.
Yeah. Migration. She was Dora in Dora and the Lost City of Gold. Yeah, so she has been in a few things, and
because we needed a live action Dora movie.
She's gonna be Dina. I forgot already. I played The Last of Us. She's gonna be Dina in.
Oh yeah, she's in Last of Us too. Yeah, she's just everywhere right now, and it's crazy.
Yeah, she's the next. She's the next Timothy Chalamet. You know.
Oh yeah,
she kind of takes off just because of being everywhere. I had to find this because it's just a great picture of Jimmy Olsen. He's like, hey, James goes and finds Jimmy, or what's his face, Skylar, and he's like, hey, give me a Jimmy Olsen pose, and he just does a little fist pump. It's so good.
For anyone who knows Jimmy Olsen, that's Jimmy Olsen.
I was looking at set photos again, leaks, and saw Corn Sweat's suit, and it almost looks a size too big. Like it looks very
that's
puffy.
what you're talking about with the
And I get that they're probably going to do some CGI touch-ups, but I'm worried that it's not just touch-ups, it's going to be the whole body again, which is fine if they make it look good, but also there's something about just a real suit. I don't know. Not going to get caught up on that.
And I mean, it's like the thing with Spider-Man, it's like a lot of his scenes you can't really use a real suit with how much it's switching between a CGI model and Tom Holland himself. So I think that's kind of the same thing with Superman.
Well, I know we've talked a lot about Superman just because he's really the only thing we've gotten news about. And we're going to keep talking about him because I forgot about one other thing. What was the casting announcement? Was it for... It wasn't for Hal Jordan, but it was for Green Lantern.
It was Hal Jordan.
It was Hal Jordan. Okay. People didn't like it. Again, older actor. I don't really remember if that was the only thing.
The only complaint? Yeah, the only complaint is that he's older.
Womp womp.
Womp womp.
Who cares? I don't know. He's not been in anything big. He's going to be Green Lantern, which we haven't got since Ryan Reynolds. Yeah. So I'm down.
Just talking about not having a Green Lantern since Hal Jordan, it was funny. Near the end of the Arrowverse, they were setting up Diggle to be a Green Lantern.
Yeah.
And then they ended up having him just reject the ring. And that was the end of the storyline. He's like, I need to be with my family. So it's like,
Dang.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
I mean, that would have been cool, but I guess the shows were bad at that point anyway. So, yeah, with Kyle Chandler as the new Hal Jordan, though, I think what they're really going for is an older mentor, Hal Jordan, and a younger mentee, Jon Stewart. So I think that's why it makes sense to me that they're going with the other actor. Because, one of the things that James Gunn has said is that a lot of the inspiration for this DC universe came from Justice League Unlimited, the cartoon. And in that series, Jon Stewart was the Green Lantern on the team. So I think they're setting up Jon Stewart to be the Green Lantern of the Justice League by having a younger Jon Stewart with an older Hal Jordan in the Lantern series.
Yeah. I remember I told you after I watched Twisters that I was like, I didn't realize that Corn Sweat was in Twisters. And then Ellie and I rewatched it because it's a great movie. And I was just like, that's so opposite of what you would expect Superman to be. But then people were joking like, "Oh, he'd be perfect for Snyder's Superman." The I don't care about the people. But it's I think it shows his depth as an actor, and I think it's gonna be good.
Yeah, he's had 2 roles recently where he's just like not nice people.
What was the other one?
I only saw a clip of it, but it was something with Natalie Portman too. I don't know what it's called or much else about it besides the quick clip I saw on Instagram once. But so it's funny for him not to have these roles as unlikable characters before being Superman. So
yeah. Have we done a Superman episode yet?
No, because you said we need to wait.
Oh, that's right. I did.
You told me to wait.
Hey, it's
Seth.
less than a year away. It's less than a year away.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have much more DC to talk about. Just give me your feelings about DC. Your past year of knowing about Gunn taking over DC and having these leaks and not having an actual movie yet, to the ending of the Arrowverse a couple years ago, like things like that. What are you feeling so that in a year you can look back and know what you were thinking?
Well, should we talk about Dynamic Duo before we move on?
Okay. Sure, whatever. I don't know much about it except that it's Batman or it's two Robins.
It's an interesting announcement, to be sure, because I think pretty sure they said this is going to be another Elseworlds project, actually.
Oh, really?
Combining. I thought that's what they said.
Dang.
Let me look up James Gunn description again. I think Matt Reeves is part of it, but it's not part of any universe already. Or maybe he's not a part of it.
Did you know that Constantine is coming back?
They announced Constantine 2 like so long ago. Like the Keanu Reeves movie, that they were going to do a sequel to that. But then they haven't said anything about it since. So I think
really? I thought it was recently.
I think that quietly got canceled. Because there hasn't been any news about it in so long.
I always look at Wikipedia for the most up to date. As you find your thing, I don't know who Lawrence is. Francis Lawrence. Francis Lawrence gave an update on the project in October 2023, indicating that the work had proceeded following the conclusion of the Writers Guild strike. He, Reeves, and Goldsman have been meeting and discussing the story. That's about it. Again, I probably saw an Instagram post about it.
So October of 20... So a year ago was the last update?
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, you're right. I think I probably saw an Instagram post from Lights Camera Barstool or something.
I think it probably got quietly canceled. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Because when was James Gunn's takeover? I think his takeover might have been somewhere in there. So.
It was early last year because they still had to finish producing the other movies.
Yeah. So I think that's probably played a role in it being quietly swept under the rug.
Okay, but we're talking about Dynamic Duo, right?
Yes, now we're talking about Dynamic Duo. I am excited. The animation part's exciting. Mm-hmm. I think they're kind of setting it up to be competition with Spider-Verse. It's interesting, though, that it's going to be animation, CGI, and puppetry.
Yeah, the puppetry got me.
I don't know what that means. Mm-hmm. Are they just going to be Muppets some of the time?
I actually, out of all of my, I have a degree in animation. I haven't mentioned it in a while. I feel like you might have forgotten. I have never heard of puppets being used in combination with CGI. Mm-hmm. Or maybe it's the other way around. I don't know. Why would you, if you have motion capture, why would you choose for a puppet to do motion capture instead of a human? Mm-hmm. Or maybe that's not the way that they're going, but that's the way I see it, and I don't get it.
Yeah.
So, what about the actual story, though? Like, two Robins or a former Robin. What was it supposed to be? Dick Grayson and Jason Todd working together.
I mean, depending on the direction they're going with it, because to me it sounds like a team-up movie with Nightwing and Jason Todd, or Nightwing and Red Hood, which is exciting to me because I think it'd be cool to see both those characters in a movie.
Yeah.
But it's also going to be about both of their origins too. So, I mean, this is just their initial announcement on it, so we don't know. Oh, Matt Reeves is a part of it.
Yeah, he is.
Okay.
That's the weird part.
Yeah. Well, I think it's, because he was also a part of the Caped Crusaders show that started this past summer.
Sure.
So it's cool to see him helping out with these other projects. But, I mean, if it's a team-up movie with Nightwing and Red Hood, I'm excited, and that's what it sounds like it is. And the animation just makes it more intriguing.
Yeah, quick question. I just looked up Batman Brave and the Bold. That Robin will be Damian Wayne.
Yeah, that's what I said.
So it's not going to really contradict. I think that's a good thing, especially as, even if they're not connected, just having there not be yet another character. We're working with Batman, kind of working with Joker, and that's really the ones that are overlapping with major media. But if he were to make like the Robin of Brave and the Bold to be Jason Todd or something, and then also be making that other one, the dynamic duo, that wouldn't make sense. But it's good. It's good that it is the way that it is.
Well, if this is going to be a part of the DCU, I don't know whether it is or not yet. He doesn't really say. But I think it would be a good... I don't know if this is coming out before or after Brave and the Bold. I think it would be a good way to explain some of the history of the previous Robins. Before we get Batman with Damian Wayne Robin in Brave and the Bold. But we'll see what they do.
I don't know how to think, because as I'll lead into wrapping up with my thoughts about DC right now for us to look back. I was always a DC hater as a Marvel fan at the peak of my Marvel enthusiasm, just because DC existed. I never watched a single movie, and I was just like, no, DC's bad, Marvel good. And there were some in there that were pretty good. I still somewhat stand by that, because the DCU wasn't quality really ever. Shazam, maybe you would say. But I really kind of didn't like it, just for no reason. And I won't defend that, except say that I was somewhat right. Not completely right. Moving forward, unless Marvel picks up their game, DC is going to be on top. They're going to make the better movies. If anything, they're going to have competition. It's going to be an equal battle, just one-upping the other, and hopefully not pulling DC to do anything drastic. I feel like Marvel's going to be the group that's, or the business that's like trying to show they're all hot stuff, doing the big things and doing the stupid moves. And yes, maybe being a little cool, but then DC's just like, we're fine over here. Gunn's just going to keep doing his thing. We don't really need to compete with you. We're just going to be DC. And Marvel wants to be the best. I think that's a good way to put it. At least that's what I've seen the past year, and that might have shifted. And again, I'm excited to come back next year and figure out, after we've seen Superman Legacy, what that looks like, and after we have more things announced, maybe even trailers for new stuff. The tides are turning. The hierarchy is changing. And
the hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change.
Yes. It's very funny how prophetic that really was from The Rock.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited. I'm more excited for DC than Marvel as a collective. I'm excited for certain Marvel projects, but I'm excited for DC to kick off again and to have a cohesive story moving forward into something that could be really great. Like, I think we will get a Justice League movie one day, and it's going to be really amazing. For Marvel, I'm excited for Born Again and Secret Wars, things like that. Just a few here and there. am not excited for where Marvel is heading, at least right now with what they have announced. Turning around to DC, I am excited for that. And I'm excited for the individual movies as well. And they're coming really soon. This is like, what is it, 9 months until July? It's like making a baby.
Ayo.
That's staying in the episode.
Are you going to bring your baby to Superman?
I will skip the birth of my child to see Superman Legacy. No. No, I won't. I'm not pregnant. I didn't mean that. I just thought it was funny.
Important specification.
Yes. I'm actually looking. Is it 280 days? It's 9.2 months. It's literally perfect. Does that make sense? Like my perspective of DC, and I know I really shouldn't be comparing it to Marvel, but I think that really sums up because it's been compared to Marvel for so long, and Gunn from Marvel is now the head of DC. I don't think he sees it as a competition. I think he sees it as a new chance to be in charge and to do what he's always wanted. And I think that feeling of making things into a cinematic universe usually doesn't bode well, but Gunn has worked in a cinematic universe and he knows, one, how to make a complete story, how to make things work with others. And I don't think he's going to, if anything, he's going to either poke the directors to go one way or encourage them to go one way, but I don't think he's going to be laying down the law to make them do something, or else they're going to get fired and have somebody else take over the project. Like I feel like has been done in other movies. So,
yeah, I would say I think if Warner Brothers lets Gunn be, I think
keeps
we could
their
have
dirty
something
little
really good
fingers
happening.
out of their projects.
It makes me a little nervous hearing about how they're pushing him to put Robert Pattinson in as Batman and stuff like that. Because, I mean, if maybe that's just a one-off thing, or maybe they're going to try and push him to do other things. But I hope James Gunn is... I mean, ultimately, Warner Brothers is in control of everything more than James Gunn is in this situation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if they really wanted Robert Pattinson as Batman, they could probably just make it happen over James Gunn's head. I think James Gunn could do a great job at crafting a universe, and I hope, without really thinking about competing with Marvel, as you said, I think Warner Brothers might still be a bit more concerned about competing with Marvel. But I think James Gunn, on his own, as the head, well, him and Safran. No one ever talks about Peter Safran. We talk about him more because they're like co-heads. So James Gunn and Peter Safran. I think they, from what we've heard about already, and from what we know of James Gunn from his previous works, I'm excited. I'm optimistic. You'll see me there at Superman Day 1. Maybe. Hopefully I'll be there day 1. It would be cool to be there day 1.
There have not been a lot of movies that you're like, opening night, I'm there. I think Superman Legacy is one of those.
Well, Superman. It's not Superman Legacy.
Really?
Yeah, it's just Superman now.
Since when?
That was a while ago.
Every article I've looked at tonight has said Legacy. Did they change it?
Yeah, he changed the name.
When did they change it?
February 29th, 2024.
Where have I been?
I don't know.
The subtitle was dropped at the end of February when filming
started. Yeah.
Warner Bros. I was going to say that Warner Bros. And Gunn are like cats. you know how cats just kind of always want to be the king or queen of the world.
Yeah.
And if there's another cat, that's why they fight, is because they know somebody's invaded their territory. But they're not actually mean. They're just in that pose that they're like feeling each other out, determining if they could be friends or not. Maybe saying that Pattinson should be the Batman of the DCU is Warner Bros. Raising their paw, getting ready to slap Gunn and be like, you're on my turf or whatever. You know, I think that's kind of the vibe that I'm getting from their relationship. And again, I think that's creativity versus consumerism that plagues every film studio. And and usually produces really bad media or really good media.
Oh, I wanted to talk about kind of the first real connective tissue that we're going to see in the DCU, and that is with Rick Flag Sr.
Okay.
You know, that's Frank Grillo's character.
Yeah.
And he's already confirmed for like 3 different projects.
Yeah.
Which is crazy for a character no one's really heard of before this point.
Yeah, I've been very weirded out by that character in the sense that, not weirded out in a bad way, just weirded like, what are they even doing? And the Creature Commandos is kind of just odd to be like a very soon released thing, you know?
Maybe it's going to be like a Phil Coulson type role, you know, like how he was popping up everywhere in the first phase of the MCU.
Yeah.
But, and it's also just, you know, with Peacemaker, it's funny. I mean, it's not a show I watch, but with Peacemaker Season 2 being canon to the DCU, but being a continuation to the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker Season 1, which are not part of the DCU. That's the only thing that's a little confusing right now. But,
yeah, I think it's really bad though. I'm like, he should have scrapped it all. Like, I know he likes Peacemaker. Blue Beetle was a decent movie for 2012. I think that's what the Critical Drinker said.
I liked that movie. No,
it is a good movie. It reminded me of 2012, as in, like, it's a little behind its time, but it was a good movie.
Oh yeah.
And he should have just scrapped it. He should have started over instead of, you know, trying to maybe tie it in and be like, oh, you know what? Only the stuff that I made actually is worth being in this show or in this movie, you know?
See, Blue Beetle makes a bit more sense because there's no real reference to what universe it's in. You know, meanwhile, Peacemaker and stuff had cameos from the Justice League, you know, like Ezra Miller and Jason Momoa, kind of establishing it in the DCEU. But with a movie like Blue Beetle, it's not really set in a specific universe from the movie we got. So
yeah,
it's easier to rope that in than trying to just say, oh, similar events happen to Peacemaker Season 1 and the Suicide Squad, but they're not actually canon. I am interested to see how they rope in Blue Beetle at some point, though.
Yeah.
If Marvel doesn't pick him up.
Blue Beetle or the actor?
The actor. He's apparently getting cast as Nova.
Oh. I thought Nova was like a... kind of like a Booster Gold type character where he's very white.
Well, there's
not that it matters, apparently.
There's a few different Novas.
Okay.
And he's actually pretty good casting for one of them. But then again, it's like, is there only one Mexican teenage actor in Hollywood?
Yeah. No, apparently not, because there's Isabel What's-Her-Face.
Oh,
not
yeah.
that he's not. I don't think she's Mexican.
Well, I mean, for a guy role, though, which is what you need, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Find someone besides Sholo, whatever his face is. Sorry, that probably sounded mean. I didn't mean that to sound as mean as it. I actually really appreciate him as an actor. He was one of the only reasons that Blue Beetle was as great as it was.
Yeah. Apparently, Isabel Merced is Polish. Oh, her mom's Peruvian. That checks out. That's how she gets darker skin, or her olive skin. I like the word olive, you know? Like the olive skin. I like that.
All of the other reindeer.
Yeah. Oh, you're so funny. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. I'm excited for next year's episode. That's all I'll say. It's going to be good.
So this is probably isn't going to be in the episode, but after the Superman movie, then are we doing the Superman episode and another DC episode?
Yeah.
Or we could bump up the Superman episode and just talk about that Superman stuff, I don't know.
You actually make a good point. You make a great point. Since, yes, I will give you that one. We'll schedule the Superman episode. And okay. Don't say I never did anything for you. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've talked about a lot of the future, or David Cornset's future in this episode and the DCU episode now. So we won't have to talk about that in the Superman episode, really. So
yeah.
It's more
I
just
think these first episodes, that we'll do over the next couple weeks, are going to set the groundwork that'll shorten the other episodes, so that they're not as painfully long and recapping every single thing. So, all right. Well, we'll get that Superman episode scheduled. You've convinced me. Thank you, listener and watcher, for consuming our content and sneaking into our conversation as friends, because that's really all this podcast. This is a couple friends talking, and you get to eavesdrop on us. So thank you for listening and sharing with your friends, because I've done that. And I also know that you follow on all our socials and on YouTube, and you are actively joining the Discord to talk about this stuff, right? Nobody talks in the Discord. Make that change. And make sure you tune in next week for another fun episode. Until then, know that you are loved. God bless.
Yes. Here's what you gotta do, listeners. You gotta share this with 5 listeners, with 5 friends, and tell those 5 friends to all share it with 5 friends. And then just let that pattern continue.
And then give me $1 each time you do that.
Yes. Well, anyway, thanks for watching, Mom.
It's not a scam, I promise.